The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jew Function, episode 113. Hi, Seth.
Hey, Leo.
I'm so happy that we're rolling. We have great guests coming up, and it seems like this topic is finally receiving the popularity it deserves after so many years. People are interested in the topic. People have something to say about it, for, against, but it's in the conversation. I remember when we started talking about the function of the Jews in the system, people looked at us like, cockeyed a little bit, and then some even questioned the just even the purpose. Like, why are you even talking about it? It's all good enough to see here. Just keep going. And since then, a lot has happened. Obviously, October 7th was a watershed moment. Not for us, because I have to say that for us, the moment was when we realized that there is something deeper going on, and we started this whole endeavor over a decade ago. But October 7th, I think, opened the eyes for many people, and many people found themselves, thrown into the limelight, into the middle of arguments in living rooms, around dinner tables, on campus, in campuses, everywhere. Really, it became a hot topic. And I think it really helped. It's like when you sift for gold. What do you call that? Panning, right? Panning, right? So there's a lot of mud, and then you everything. You shake the pan, and then the little bits of gold are left when all the mud just leaves the. I kind of feel the same way. Like a lot of suddenly it's very clear, who's with you, who's against you, who gets it, who doesn't, who has something that maybe we can call sort of a point in the heart, that makes him feel a certain way, desire certain things, who doesn't. And it's interesting. I mean, I don't know.
I'm intrigued to hear you say that. Because it seems to me now it's always like this, that we reach a crossroad and then we split, but inevitably then you reach the next crossroad and there's another split. So up until now, for example, in the US, it was the Biden-Trump thing. Okay, so it went the way of Trump, and now you have within the right-wing movement another fork in the road. There's like the woke right now. It's like who's anti-Israel. It seems that no matter doesn't matter how far we go down this road, there's always another fork in the road. In any group, there's always a break, and that Jew question always comes up. First, it was the right or the left. Okay, now it's in the right, and then within the right, it's between the right who's against Israel and the right that's for Israel. I'm surprised to hear you say that we kind of know who's with us and who's not, because it seems like this thing always just keeps circling back and landing like, bullseye on the Jew again, no matter which crossroad we end up at.
Well, I think it's a journey. I don't think it's gonna end with this, because as we say here on the Jew function, there is a function for this group called Jews, and they're not just it's not just if you're born a Jew. It's if you have this feeling, this desire toward unity. Jew, Yehudi, from the word Yichud, unity. We say it many times on this show. That's the root of this people. It's a people founded around an ideology, and then they split, many forks in the road, as you say, together and split. And in that process of mixing also with the nations of the world, and really, Jews are made of representatives of all the nations of the world. We're not unique in our genetics. We're actually unique in our desire to find what's beyond, to endure some friction, some discomfort, and cover it with with love, with care for the other above the differences. This is what's unique about the Jews. That's the only thing that's been above everything else. And that really is at the heart of what we need to do here. And so I think once we understand what's going on, then we can, we can switch the podcast into, okay, how do we actually, okay, let's do it. Who's bringing people together, who's uniting people, who's working to rise above their natural inclination to run away, to push the other, to be above the other, who's actually making these efforts, what kind of help is needed, where are there groups that support each other. There's like work for, for many years ahead of us. So this is just I feel like the first rung on this ladder.
It's like first you need to invent the computer, then you can get to the internet and AI and robotics and
exactly,
everything.
and then we can fly to the moon.
Yeah, we first need to be super clear that Zeus isn't making, this one's not making it rain and this one's not making it storm, and all these forces are happening for whatever reason that nobody understands. We need to now ground ourselves very clearly. What are the laws operating on the system? It's still a lot of confusion. Hopefully we're going to get more and more clear on what is the system, what are the laws operating it, who are these different people inside this system. And then once we're working on the same playing field, now we can really fly.
Exactly. And I think just before we intro the guest, we have a great guest today, a fascinating human being, which you'll hear about in a second. I think he's again another, I don't want to say proof, but he's a great example of how what we're talking about really has nothing to do with your legal status, with your genetics. It has to do with something deeper in your heart. What we call it a desire. You can call it whatever you want, but it's a desire. It's an inclination. It's something that drives you in a certain direction. And we can see that that's what unites people. That's what made this person suddenly, after October 7th, decide to put on a shirt with a map of Israel and wear a Star of David and have the the hostage names on his walls. And he's really a very unlikely candidate. He was I think is a U.S. Navy veteran for 12 years. He was there, the nuclear engineer, and he really just started to express his support for Israel after after I think 2021. So even before October 7th, he was already active. And it's all, he says, from what I read, has to do with how he was raised by his Samoan adopted father. So who taught him that Jews are important for some reason. So we want to hear about that and all of his special life journey. So I want to give a warm welcome to Nick Matau, please. Hey.
Hey, how's it going, you two? Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm introduction. And yeah, I was gonna say I was talking about this since about 2021, before October 7th, and yep, you nailed it. U.S. Navy veteran.
Thank God for the internet.
No Star of David, but because I'm not Jewish, but I do have the map of Israel on my neck.
Also good.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I think we all want to know what's a little bit of your backstory here, because it's not usual that we get supporters, let alone people who are not officially from the tribe. So let's start. Give us a little background on that, on your roots, because it may serve to help help to explain what's going on here to everyone.
Right. So yes, thank you again. I mean, you kind of nailed it. I was raised since I was one by a man from Western Samoa. Came here to America for school, high school, and loved America. Stayed here, got his citizenship, proud American. He met my mom when I was the age of 1 in Los Angeles. Started raising me. And raised me with anyone who knows the Samoan culture, very strict, direct set of values. Family is very, very important. And, I see a lot of similarities between that specific part of the Samoan culture and Jewish people as well, who are very much community based and they take care of their families. It's very, very important. And then also beyond that, the community as a whole. My dad, when I was a kid, I remember he would, Israel would be in the news like it always is. But I was just a child, and my dad would be like, "Hey, that's Israel's son, very tiny nation in the Middle East. We need to, support her. Great friends of the United States." And I'm not gonna lie to you. I just heard that and I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I was just a kid. I honestly couldn't have probably even told you really what a Jew was, other than maybe I'd be like, yeah, those are the people from the Bible, right? Um, it's yeah, I would just kind of like, oh, those are the people from the Bible. That's all I would think, and I just kind of move on. As I got older, I would start to how do I say? I would start to hear like anti-Semitic jokes, if you will. But it wasn't super common because I didn't really grow up around a lot of Jews, at least that I know of. And as I got older, Israel would be in the news again, and I would just kind of always remember the values and morality and the teachings of my father, but still not really talking about it much. Now, to fast forward to 2021 to get to the crux of it all, I was making videos about US politics, contemporary news, stuff like that. I gained a lot of followers. Wasn't talking about Israel or Jews at all. 80,000 followers, and I was gaining really, really fast, especially the month before. And then all of a sudden, May of 2021 happens, and Hamas launches those 5,000 rockets into Israel. And what actually got me to make my first video defending Israel wasn't even particularly that. It was that everyone started posting on their bio, Free Palestine, Free Palestine. And I remember even people would remove, at the time, Black Lives Matter was in everyone's bio, BLM. People would like remove that from their bio and just put Free Palestine. It wasn't even like they added it. So I made a video kind of calling out that hypocrisy and virtue signaling. Hardly even really necessarily a defense of Israel, although I did say I stand with Israel's right to defend herself. Something that we all kind of say, oh, Israel has a right to defend herself, which I'll get into why I don't particularly choose that term anymore or phrasing. But first, I make a video and I go to bed because I made it at night, and I wake up the next day. That video goes like semi-viral, especially for 2021 TikTok. And about 70% of it was hate. And the hate, about 90% of that 70%, was anti-Semitism, because they thought, I guess, I was Jewish. Not, but they thought I was. And so a lot of comments about my nose, a lot of comments about Hitler, a lot of comments about how they hope I get gassed to death, all that stuff. And then kind of was like taken aback a little bit because, again, as I told you earlier in my story, that I knew anti-Semitism existed. I heard people would make little jokes here and there, little snide remarks. I had no idea, not even a little bit, that it was that bad. I did not realize there were that many people, whether it be online or whatever, that were that anti-Semitic. And naturally, because of the type of personality that I am, that pushed me to make more videos. It didn't push me away. And so I started to become increasingly curious about this tiny state of Israel. I knew more than the average American at this point, for sure, especially because I was already at that point serving. I was at 9 years serving in the military at that point. But still, I didn't know nearly as much as I know now. Now I know a lot. But I started reading. The very first book I read was Arab-Israeli Wars by Chaim Herzog. I started reading anti-Zionist books, which I think kind of made me a little bit unique. A lot of people like to stick to their own, what helps them feel better reading. No, I read from Elon Pape to Benny Morris, Ephraim Karsh to Konstantin Zarek, Chaim Herzog, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Spencer, all of it, and so on and so on. And the more I read, the more I realized that my first beliefs to stand with Israel was correct. Because the more, and even to this day, I'm still reading. The more I read, because the history stand with Israel, the facts stand with Israel, the other side has very quick one-liners, and they feel good, and they rhyme, they're nice. But Israel has something a little bit deeper than that. But it takes a lot more efforts to get to that standard.
I think that that's a very fair analysis, and yet the question is, I mean, why stick for Israel? I mean, there are other cultures that need sticking up to. There's I mean, there's a lot of bad things happening in the world. You could be helping other cultures equally. What's with the Jews? I mean, what?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of it is so the way I was raised, my time in the service and as an American, the reason I do is because it does just stem from like I said, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Israeli. It's not like I grew up where, hey, my best friend's Jewish and I wanted to help him or her out. No. My morality and values is where it comes from. And my morality and values, uh, probably because where I was raised, who I was raised by, I mean, if you get to the root of it, does come from the Torah, right? And as I started to meet more, but when I first started talking about Israel, naturally, I met with meeting a lot of Jewish people, a lot of Israelis, become very, very close. I met later my now fiance, who is a Jewish Israeli woman, and so when I start to get invited to this Seder, this Shabbat dinner, and stuff like that, and I get to see the Jewish people and how they are as friends, not just what I see on a video or whatever. Uh, it's a very, very similar value system, and that's the root of it all. Like, why is it that you support the Jewish people? And then I can get into why maybe them more than any other cause, is because I see that the morality and the evil that necessarily Israel and therefore the Jewish people are fighting against, at least today, is the same evil that would want me, even though I'm not Jewish, gone as well. And so I find it a little interesting when we see anti-Semitism on the left and the right, increasingly on the right, especially these past few months. There's the reason I bring up increasingly on the right is because we have this like whole America first, people say that as a way to like hammer away at Israel. Well, I'm America first. I love America. It's the greatest country in the world. I love it. I'm an American. I served this country for 12 years. That's why I stand with Israel. It's because everything that Israel is fighting against is something that we can only ignore because we have a big pond between us and our enemies. So why wouldn't I support people that are doing that for my community as well and my people? And then obviously on a non-selfish way, it's also just like I said, the values and the morality of the thing. With other people, I do talk about other conflicts a little bit. I've had an entire 3-hour live last night. A lot of it was about what's happening in Sudan. Again, similar enemy, but what's happening in Sudan. But it's the Jewish people have connected me not just as friends, but they've even made me learn more about myself. When I first started getting, anti-Semitic comments because people thought I was Jewish, and I had to say, well, I'm not Jewish. And then I kind of had that original like waking up. I got banned from TikTok, getting close to 100,000 followers. I talked about a lot of stuff, politics even. I can get pretty shifty, especially in 2021 TikTok. And no bans, maybe a video removed sometimes, unfairly, I might add, but a video removed sometimes. But the second I started talking about Israel and standing up for the Jewish people, I would get banned. And I lost all of my followers. And I make a new account, and it wasn't, my original 80,000 that started following me again. It was the Jewish community and the Israeli community that followed me again. And I always found it interesting. One of the anti-Semitic stereotypes is how much Jews hate Goyim, Gentiles, whatever you want to say, or how greedy Jews are, or how, whatever. You guys, I'm sure you guys know the stereotypes. And
well, we are a little greedy, so it's okay.
you know what? There's a difference between rightfully greedy and not, okay? This is the thing. Before I actually answer, it's so funny on my live, people will come up on my live like, hey Nick, the Jews are are very greedy. They love money so much. I always answer the same way. I'm like, oh, do you like money? Like, well, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Me too. I'm not Jewish. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Yeah, people will say how much the Jews just hate goys. They're greedy. They won't help you. They don't like you. Wow, how's the total opposite, right? It's the Jewish people from the very beginning have always had that support. And if there is something going wrong, almost to an annoying sense, Jews will rally around you and be like, what's going on? No, we're gonna fix this. Even if you're trying that whole like, I'm okay, it's fine, it's fine. They're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I'm going to help you and you're gonna like it. And it's just like it's so interesting. And I've told people how much the Jewish people have helped me and how much they clearly like me, and I'm not Jewish. And then, they say, they're just tricking you for now. I'm like, well, it's been 5 years, so I guess I'll wait for that shoe to drop.
I have to ask you the question because in all this process that you've been going through, has it ever occurred to you that there's something really different about this group called the Jews? Like something is a little off. They don't conform to the same statistics as the rest of the world. They're kind of like the anomaly. We're kind of like the anomaly in many, many, many areas. Like too many to say, well, coincidence. Well, coincidence. Well, when you add up all those coincidences, because that's what we did here at the Jew Function is also we looked at historic patterns from the first Jew, from Abraham all the way to the establishment of Israel, and it's just one big bag of anomalies. Like it doesn't add up. Do you feel the same way?
Well, of course, I don't know if I would use the word like off or anomaly. I would say two things to that. One, the Jew is different, of course, and I can probably sit here for an hour and name a lot of things of why they're different, but the Jews, whether secular or not, they all have one thing that does set them aside, and that's the Torah. And I truly believe that. And I see the Torah in every Jew, even the most secular Jew. My fiance's parents, especially her dad, they don't even believe in God. And so, like I said, especially her dad, but both of them are the proudest. I mean, they're both Israeli, both born in Israel. My fiance was born in New York, but both the proudest Jewish people, very, very, very prideful people. They love the country. They support the country. They have their gripes with, especially her mom has the gripes with the country. Me and her mom will get into the funniest, like I call them Israeli arguments, where you're getting to the point where you're even yelling at each other, and then 5 seconds later you're laughing over hummus or whatever. You literally yell. This picture right here, actually, I gave it to her originally because she does not like Bibi Netanyahu, and I love to mess with her by calling him Abu Yair, and I just mess with her. I'm not Israeli, so I don't really particularly care about Israeli politics. I just say, hey, I'm not Israeli. I'll leave that to the Israelis. But in an attempt to mess with her, I love my future mother-in-law. I got her that picture, and while she was sleeping, because she was spending a couple weeks here in the guest room, I put it on her bed style. She found it so funny. Yeah, so they're secular, and the Torah is still very much in her mother and her father, just as much as the rabbi at Chabad. And that's very interesting. The second thing I'll have to say about the Jews is it's interesting. You asked, are the Jews different? Well, no, actually. And on the other foot, because the Jews have been the same. When you look at ancient and religious roots of anti-Semitism that goes all the way back to the earliest tensions, what was it? It was Jews were different and hated because they were seen different because they refused to adopt local gods and local customs, which at the time was paganism, because Judaism is before Christianity, before Islam. Other than Zoroastrianism around the same time, monotheology, one God, was not really a concept. And even that was a different area. So Jews were hated because they didn't believe in the multiple gods. And now Jews are hated because they don't believe in that specific God. Or Jews are hated because fill in the blank. Jews from ancient times to today have been relatively the same. Yes, there's little traditions that naturally adopt or change slightly, especially in local aspects, local regions over time. But the Jews are the Jews today. It's actually interesting. My fiance and I, we're watching this new TV. Well, it's not a new TV show. It's 5 seasons in. It's called The Chosen, and it's a story of Jesus Christ. Here's the funny part. I'm not a Christian. I was baptized as a Catholic. I'm not a Christian per se anymore, or at all anymore. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not Jewish. I call myself a Noahide. I follow the 7 laws of Noah. I'm not particularly religious. Like, it's not like I go to a place of worship per se, and I just believe in the God of Abraham. I follow the 7 laws, but I understand I'm not a Jew, so I'm not following 613 mitzvot. And so it's the funny thing is my fiance, my Israeli Jewish fiance, was the one that's like, hey, let's watch this show. And I'm like, why do you want to watch a show about Jesus? She's like, she's gotten very into theology lately. Me, I've read the Quran twice. I've read the Christian Bible, King James Version, New International Version. I've read the Torah, the Tanakh. And so I've always been into it. So I was thoroughly surprised that she's like, I'm very much into it. I want to just kind of watch this to see it. First off, it's a very interesting show, and I was a little worried because there's Christian movies or shows that kind of depict Jewish people as like a sort of enemy, right? Because they focus so much on, the crucifixion. This show, takes place I think they're 5 seasons in, and I don't think they've even gotten to that yet. And the director has a very very big respect for the Jewish people, and he created what was called, I read it online, a Jewish advisory board for the TV show, because they're like, hey, Jesus was a Jew, his followers, his apostles, all of them were Jews, and I want to make sure I have that respect, and I want to make sure I get it right. So that way you don't copy. I don't know if you guys heard the Netflix show with Seth Rogen. They ended up getting, I'm not Jewish, so forgive me, I forget, but there's like 2 Jewish holidays that sound similar, but they're totally different. And in the TV show, he's supposed to be a rabbi, and he said like the wrong one. They wanted to make sure they didn't screw that up. So we just got done. We're in season 2. We just got done, and they were doing Sukkot, right? They're like, oh, the Feast of the Tabernacles, and they're building, the whole, what's it called?
Sukkah.
Sukkah.
The Sukkah, yeah. They're building that, and I just thought it was actually kind of amazing, and because I really appreciate that they're kind of adding that in and they're having that respect, and I think it's something that people forget because Jews are such a tiny people, almost 16 million people, 0.2% of the world, and talk about the Abrahamic religions. This was the start of the Abrahamic religions, and yet it is the smallest.
So again, I'm pressing on that question because you say, no, the Jews are not different. I wasn't asking if Jews were changing. I'm saying Jews being who they are, for the most part, staying the same, changing some of the outer, expressions of their Judaism, but for the most part, keeping a consistent thread throughout history. We always found it interesting that Jews were always at the center of things, always had drew an proportionate amount of attention to their size, to the point that today, like if a conflict doesn't involve Jews, it's not in the news. Not in the news. Sudan, millions of people are dying in Sudan. We don't care. If there's no Jews there, we don't care. It's almost crazy. Not only that, even the allegations against Jews, whatever they are, they could change, they can flip, they can become conflicting, contradictory, right? The Jews, you're not white, therefore you're the enemy, and now you are white, therefore you're the enemy. As long as we can keep you front and center as the under the spotlight, on the witness stand, and somehow be able to point a finger at you, that doesn't sound a little strange? I mean,
it is strange, and there's multiple different answers. You have to think of it theologically. Is this something that is what the Bible said would happen, and it's a fulfillment of biblical prophecy? Or if you're secular, well, what is it? Now, for me, if we're going to answer the secular side of it and just like historically trying to think of any sense of logic that we can apply to this, what is it about it? I think anti-Semitism isn't a sign that it just hates. It's not just a hate towards Jews, although of course that is what it is directly. it's a warning sign that a society is losing its moral compass and therefore an eventual collapse. And that's one of the things, to go back to your first question of, I was actually on Dinesh D'Souza's show saying exactly this. The reason I also stand with Israel is because America, an amazing, greatest, if you want to use the term empire in history, I don't want it to make the same mistakes of every empire before her. And it's interesting when you look at, I mean, seriously, you guys at home, look at this. When you see the fall of an empire, look at their anti-Semitism relatively right before they fall. It's very interesting how it correlates, and people can speculate why, what does that mean? I think it's as simple as just saying, because when you lose your moral compass, some reason Jews are the first target. And when you lose your moral compass, that's naturally going to lead to the fall of an empire. Because morality is what, if not what does keep an empire together, it's what should keep an empire together. And it's a symptom of a loss of morality. Now, why is that a symptom? I think that because the Jewish people have a success of a people that others don't have, and when I say success, I'm not talking about business or money or whatever the case might be. I'm talking about a success of community that a lot of communities don't have. A lot of communities wish they had. And so when you have that and you mix that in with small numbers, like the Jewish people, very, very tiny, have always been a tiny people. When you mix those two things together, it's very, very easy for an envious person of larger status, larger numbers, larger whatever. By status, I mean they're occupying your land or you're in their land because you're in the diaspora. It's very, very easy to fall into the trap of, you're the reason that my life is so bad. You are. There's nothing you can do about it because, well, you're tiny and I'm big, and what are you going to do about it? People, for some reason, they want to poke at they want to poke at what they're envious of. I don't know what it is about people. I mean, we do it on an individual level. We do it on a group level. I don't know if it's tribalism, the fact that human beings are so tribal. But people do it. And so it's the need for a scapegoat, and the Jewish people are always the start of that. And then not long after, that hatred grows. Very, very rarely do you see in society where they have just a hatred for the Jewish people, but there's such a loving empire. It's just the Jewish people. No. It's the Jewish people, but it's also the Black people, the Romani people, pick any other minority. That's what you see in these empires. That's why when I get a lot of anti-Semitic people on my lives every night, and they try to bring up something about, well, and you know that the Jews, they were kicked out of this many blah, 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 blah. I tell them, give me... First off, I want to point out that the 109 country thing is totally bullshit. It was never 109 countries. A lot of them were just areas that were owned by the same people. But nonetheless, I tell them, tell me about this empire that just had the problem with Jews, but everyone got along with them. Everything was perfect, sound, and it was just the Jews. And of course they can't answer. Tell me the first on that list of countries that they were kicked out of. Tell me the first few that were on that list. Oh, it was ancient Israel. Oh, so you're blaming the Jews that other people went into their land and kicked them out. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just a sign of a morally degenerate society that's about to collapse, in my
Nick,
opinion.
let's talk about the empire. The cycle of an empire. So waging a revolution is one thing, and then actually governing after the revolution is something else, right? Like winning an election is one thing, and then governing is something else. So, like you said, in each of these empires, you can see the Jews alongside the empire, and we can go back to Rome, Greece, Persia, Germany, right? Every place, the Jews are right there alongside the empire, actually supporting them. In fact, Jews were imported in many cases in order to help organize finances and all different kinds of things.
To accelerate it.
Right. And then once they were happy, France says, okay, we're good, let's kick them out. And then England's like, fine, we'll take them. And then England grows and we'll kick them out. Okay, fine. Spain says, we'll take them. And we see that this yeast or whatever is like brought in all the time in order to bring this thing up. Question is, and to your point, at a certain point, it hits this peak, and then the anti-Semitism grows. So the question is, my question to you is, and it happens every time like clockwork, is there something else that's required of the Jews that is above and beyond just normal building infrastructure of a country, building economy of a country, laying some moral foundations? Is there something else that if that doesn't, if they don't also bring that, then this natural process, the pressure cooker blows, and then the ashes are scattered, and then again it has to happen. Oh, I think you're muted. I don't know. We can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know why that happened. Anyways, that's a good question. I'm sure there's somebody who could probably give a more optimistic answer than me, but I had this talk with my fiance actually just a couple weeks ago, where I said, I wonder if this is the plight of the Jewish people, and she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, Jews are commanded to, and it's in their heart and soul, to spread light amongst the nations. Like, I truly believe that. No, I know that. I mean, it's very obvious. I mean, you look at the inventions of just Jewish people alone and how many people they have saved or made lives better for the whole world throughout history. It's undeniable. And you think about, because when you look at that catalyst, so what is the changing point, the turning point, excuse me, of when people start to, in an empire, start to gain towards or push towards anti-Semitism? You have a golden age of Spain. What is it that changes people? Is it the change of leadership? Is it insecurity and fear? War, economic collapse, or not even economic collapse, economic decline? And then,
Can I speed it up here just because I'm really impressed by your breadth and understanding of all these things. Each empire, when it reaches the pinnacle, the zenith of what that empire is capable of, at that point it happens, and unless they're able to redefine some goal, some gigantic goal, some goal like world peace, some goal like unity. Because once you establish the infrastructure of the country, okay, we have the plumbing, we have the economy, we've got Wall Street, we've got technology. Now what is that all that humanity is made for? You go to Rome. Okay, we got the Colosseums, we got democracy, we got this. Is
Don't
that
forget
all?
the baths. Don't forget the baths.
Yeah, the baths. So if the Jew is this other, they received the Torah, they're supposed to be a light to the nations. So okay, so we got the infrastructure in place. Is that all we're supposed to be doing, or is there maybe something else?
you mean
And
as
that doesn't
humanity or as the Jew?
Both.
Well, the
we're
Jew
part of humanity.
alongside humanity, the Jew initiates it and helps humanity to do that. And if that doesn't happen, then this reaction called anti-Semitism happens.
I see what you're saying. I think that the answer is yes, but it's not what's happening. I think that humanity is always going to desire more, but they're not desiring what they should be. I think humanity should look more towards a spiritual growth. And unfortunately, people are looking more for physical growth or materialistic growth. And so when you say like, hey, you build this foundation, your economy is doing well, you have these innovations, these inventions, etc., what more are we supposed to do? The problem is that human beings are always naturally going to want more. And if it's not more, they're going to want the same thing, but faster. And you look at, I'm 33, so I remember, late 90s, 2000s, both. I remember things happening, what I compare to today, relatively slowly. Every 5 to 10 years, there was a quote unquote big invention or something new that came out. And now it feels like it's like every couple months there's something big coming out. And ask yourself, have human beings, whether we're talking about Americans or just in general, have they become more satisfied as we are able to pump out more technology, better, faster? I would say no. I think we've
More
become,
depression.
yeah, exactly. We've
Yeah.
become more depressed. We've become less satisfied. Is that because,
However, the benefit of that is that if I don't have a toaster oven can make my life better. You know, you don't know. If I do have if I don't have a microwave, or I don't have a car, or I don't have a spaceship, but once you have everything that you could possibly ever want, except maybe a robot at home, once you have all of the materials, which is going to happen fast, once we have all the material stuff we could ever want, then what's left? If we don't have the material stuff, then we can still say we need more of this, we need more of this. But once we have everything, then what's left? And is that thing that's left maybe the thing that these Jewish people are supposed to be bringing? Not supposed to, like I don't want to shoot on anyone, but you know the real
I'll
essence
say
of what.
it, supposed
Oh,
to. No, I'll
okay.
say it. It's supposed to. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do believe now, again, I want to be comfortable with all of your audience. I'm sure there's people that are listening that are religious just as much as they are secular. But for me, I'm going to give you my beliefs. I do believe that that spiritual awakening that human beings need is absolutely comes from the Jews and will come from the Jews, because again, I do believe in the Torah, and it says that the Jews will be the light amongst the nations, and I have no reason to deny that's already happening, and I have no reason to deny that it will continue to happen. And I think that that's the thing that human beings are missing. If you look at Europe, do you think Europe looks the same way today as it did even 20 years ago or 50 years ago? And if you think the answer is no, which that should be your answer, and if you think it's worse now than it was 20, 50 plus years ago, and that should be your answer, ask yourself, have they had more of a spiritual awakening, or have they become more secular, where bad faith actors are able to take advantage of them and take over their societies? Um, Obviously, I'm asking the question rhetorically. That's the answer. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think that that rise in secularism and that rise in materialistic needs has led to our downfall, has led to our depression, has led to our dissatisfaction on multiple levels. And the Torah, and even if you aren't, even if you're secular, even just historically, the Jews have been the fill of what is missing in society when it comes to specifically that aspect. When we're talking about, if you want to call it spirituality, you can call it spirituality. I'll just call it a general light. And the light does obviously shine brightest in the darkest regions as well.
So this is exactly where this is where we wanted to end up on um, that point. I mean, because what we've been asking ourselves is, when we started this whole Jew function adventure, is well, can we change how people feel about Jews directly? Can you just go to someone and say, hey, you gotta love the Jews, you stop hating, hating is bad for you? I can't do it. I can talk
No,
about it. I can talk about it in
no,
schools and all that, but you can't change someone's feelings just because you make it, it's illegal to say anti-Semitic things. Great. Okay, so I'm gonna hate you at home, and then I have a friend of mine who's she's Dutch, and she went to I'm sorry, an Israeli friend who studies in the Netherlands, right? And then after October 7th, the whole thing blew up, and suddenly everybody was kind of like looking at her nasty, saying nasty things, and she was like, she was talking to her friend. It was like, I thought we're like best friends and everything, and the friend is like, no, we're best friends, but you have to understand that at home we always talked this way about the Jews. It was just not popular to say it outside of the home, and now it's popular. It's okay. You can say it
that's right.
freely. So people have that sensation, and you can't directly change it. So we were asking, okay, what can we change? What is within our control? And we started to gradually turn to ourselves. What can we change about what we're doing? If we as Jews were actually bringing light to the nations, there would be light in the nations, in the world. Right now, there's no light. So something is off. Something, all the inventions, all the startups, all that great stuff, probably had a purpose, but to a point, as you say, as you yourself said, to a point. Having a Waze in my car is not going to show me the way to spirituality. It's a great
Yeah.
thing to have, but it's not, in and of itself, it's pointless. What is it that we as humans aspire to, and that we as Jews can deliver to them? That's the question. Something that goes beyond these things, that something that it can go really beyond the level of this world almost. Or maybe also beyond the level of this world, but at least something, right? Something else. And we started to see that really all these complaints against the Jews, all these allegations, all these things that you call, tribalism or envy or bigotry, and all those things were simply just expressions of some inner dissatisfaction with this group of people that I somehow find myself dependent on. And that's what subconsciously people are feeling. I somehow find that my well-being is connected to those people somehow. I don't know exactly in what way. I can't explain it, not even to myself. I just know that if I'm feeling bad, it's somehow their fault. And therefore, the outer story of why they're bad doesn't matter. Today, it's race, it's ethnicity, it's religion,
Israel.
it's Zionism, exactly, Zionism, whatever. It's just a story I need to have in order to, quiet myself. So what is it? Maybe you can tell us, maybe as an outside observer, maybe before you even tell us that, maybe you can take a step back and say, how would you actually define a Jew? We ask this question often. We actually haven't asked it for a while. So we'll ask you, if an alien landed here and asked, what's up with this 0.2% of the population that everybody's so obsessed with? Who are they? What are they? So can you define what is a Jew? Because Jews don't really know. Maybe you can
No.
shed some light. Okay, that's the end of our show.
That's an honest answer.
Yeah, thank you for coming. How do you define a Jew? So that's interesting. Because everyone does give a different answer, don't they?
Many don't, but many give different answers. Yes, I mean, many don't have an answer. Period. Those who do give an answer, that we have very different views. So it's interesting.
I would define. Man, you put me on the spot, man. Okay, I would define a Jew as a member of the tribe or nation of people whose sole goal is to bring about the morality and the spirituality of the human race that is required to reach total enlightenment, if you will. The reason I specifically use the word tribe or nation of people is because there's a lot of blood quantums that are thrown against the Jewish people. That, oh, well, what percentage Jewish are you? Or is it this, or is it that? And, oh, do you have European DNA? And blah, blah, blah. You guys have heard it. And it's just like, a Jew is not somebody that is susceptible to blood quantums. Like, well, I am 34.67% Jewish, so therefore, no. This has nothing to do with it. Is if you're a part of the tribe or are you not part of the tribe. Yes, there's some aspects that go into it, and depending on who you ask, hey, your mother and your mother's mother has to be Jewish, and I understand that, but it's, are you part of the tribe or are you not? I don't like to use the word ethno-religion. I know that's a modern terminology that's used against, or not against, but just used for the Jewish people amongst others. I find it a little silly. They're a tribe of people. It's not the best answer, but that's the best one that I could give if some kind of alien came down and asked me, what is a Jew?
The funny thing when you talked about the percentage of the blood, you know that it's not the right answer, because when you look at Jewish law, if you have a law that's called the 60th part of something. I don't know if you heard about it, if you read about it, but if you made soup and 60th of the soup has pork in it, you can still eat it.
No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's like a 60th of something is like really nothing. Is the point, is because it gets washed in, because it also has practical applications. Obviously, when you had a village and everybody brought something into the soup, then maybe if someone had a little a leg of ham in there, fine, it's okay. It's not about those material things, because you can also never, it's very wishy-washy. It's hard. We always talk about the 10 lost tribes, like where are they? We talk about, that's why, as we said in the very, very beginning, when we talk about Jews, we talk about an inner desire, a desire towards something, an aspiration towards something. The word Israel means Yashar El, straight to the Creator, where the Creator being
It's
the
interesting.
force.
This was in your definition of what's a Jew, and it's rare to hear someone bring up this definition. You planted the flag basically as far into the beautiful future as possible, and that it doesn't matter. I'm willing to do whatever ups and downs I need to get there. Usually, people plant the flag, 5 yards, 100 yards in front of them, and the next battle. But when you talk about the goal of humanity, it's
This
changes
is
your perspective.
Yeah, no, and just to finish that, and this is really the purpose of the Jews. They're simply the spirit of humanity, made of the same people in humanity originally. They're not an alien species. They're not a genetically different. There are no genetic markers. You can find some markers, but only because they're made of all the other nations. So it's not
Right, that's
about
right.
that. It's actually an ideology, a direction, straight to the Creator, straight to this force of love and bestowal, which is how the Creator is defined in the writings. If you read beyond the literal, explanation, beyond the fairy tale, so to speak, it's a force. It's a force in nature, and that's what all of the Jewish teaching is all about. The problem is the way we've been seeing it, as we've been tracking it, is that Jews themselves have forgotten, they need a little memory reset to realize that this is our purpose in the world. And until we fix that, until we become similar to that quality of love and bestowal, we can try anything. We can sue people, shame people, ban people, do this, that, cut their funding, whatever it is. You won't be able to defeat everyone just by sheer numbers, 0.2%.
Well, the issue, and I'm very much against just trying to fight anti-Semitism by being like, well, we'll just block that guy, or we'll just like,
Right.
no, I actually am very big into fighting it directly head on in a smart way. And the reason I'm against it is because if you believe in this idea that, yes, I do believe that we're a light amongst the nations. Yes, I do believe that we should be doing this and that. If you believe that and it's not happening, as you said earlier, if we're supposed to be light amongst the nations, then why is there not light amongst the nations? Would you question, if you're the one that is supposed to be spearheading that as a people, would you question what you've done, your tactics in the contemporary times, or would you question that person? You wouldn't question that person, you'd question you. It's the same thing I can give a lot of examples, but that's exactly right. And so I don't believe, in fact, I'm looking into slowly but surely starting an organization that I don't want to start. Don't really have much interest in starting it, but I see that there is a gap in the pro-Israeli community. I go to all of these, I get invited a lot to a lot of these summits and pro-Israeli events. A lot of them I speak at. And every time, either people are like, oh my God, I love your work, or I have no idea who you are. And the people that don't have any idea who I am, which I love those people because they let me relax a little bit when I'm at these events, they ask me, what do you do? I said, well, now I am on multiple things, Instagram and stuff. I really started on TikTok, and I still do TikTok lives almost every night. And I get the same reaction every time. Oh my gosh, that's super anti-Semitic, isn't it? I'm like, oh no, yeah, it's horrible. But that's why I'm on there. And they go, hey, good for you. I can't do it, but I'm really proud that people like you are doing it. And I get it. I'm not like upset with the person, but at the same time, I asked them, I'm like, well, what do you want to do with Gen Z, right and left? A lot of them are pulling away from Israel and therefore the Jewish people, which I find wholeheartedly connected. And before I keep going, actually, there was a friend of mine, he goes by Hebrew Hammer online. He told me what he heard from another rabbi, that the Jews have their own Trinity, and it's but part of that Trinity is Israel, right? Torah, Israel, and Jesus, what was the third one?
I thought it was sugar, flour, and oil, but it's for sure.
The Torah.
You know what? Maybe
Israel,
that's
Jewish
what it
people.
was.
No,
What would you say?
no. In
The
Hebrew,
Torah, Israel, and the Jewish people.
Yeah, and I
or
think that's what I was gonna say, is community or Jewish people.
Israel, in Hebrew, it's Israel Oraita Kucha Brichu, which means
Aramaic.
Israel, The Torah and the Creator are one.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. Yes. And yeah, so it's just interesting. Forgive me, God, for getting you out of the Torah Israel. And it's like, what's that third one? Um, oh man, I'm not gonna get any good sleep tonight. Anyways, so yeah, but the point is that Israel would be part of that. So back to what I was saying, right? Is that you have Gen Z. What do you do with them? And they all say the same thing, like, oh, well, they're young, they'll grow out of it, or they're too far gone, they're too lost. And I'm like, okay, I mean, but is that a good strategy? Like, do you find that?
Are people coming around because of your lucid, your clear thinking and clear arguments, or are they coming around because they emotionally get something? What makes them, when you reach someone, what is it that worked?
I could probably do better on the emotional side. When I do my debates online, I go straight to the source. I invite anyone up, and as long as they can have a conversation and not just start screaming or whatever, I'll keep them up. They can say I'm a neo-Nazi. They can say whatever, and I will have that conversation with them.
You have the wrong flag for that, by the way.
Yeah. I have no respect for somebody like that, and I will debunk them very hard, but I want to make sure that they are the vessel that is bringing out whatever anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, whatever anti-Israel, blood libel. They're the vessel that brings it out. But there are hundreds of, and over the course of the live, thousands to tens of thousands of people that end up listening. And so I want to make sure that there's somebody. Now, there's naturally people that are going to be listening that are like, I love Nick, I agree with Nick with whatever he says. And then the opposite. I hate Nick, no matter what he says, I'm going to think the opposite. But there's a percentage there, small or big, that will say, I've heard that conspiracy theory. I've heard that Jews do this or that. And then they hear Nick answer it. And that person, even if it's just one, that goes, oh, okay, actually what Nick said that makes sense. So since October 7th, so about 2+ years now, I have had about 25 to 30 people come to me that have at least admitted to me, who have said, Nick, I was extremely anti-Israel. I hated Israel. Some have even said I was anti-Semitic. I hated the Jews. And now I am very pro-Israel because I've listened to your lives, or listened to your lives and blah, blah, blah. And that is nice. I mean, it's not, when I've spoken with thousands of people, 25 to 30 maybe not sound like a lot, but still, if I can change one person's mind, that's amazing. Anything after that's a bonus. So I think that's amazing. And I would say, to answer your question, for me, I'm not saying that my way is better. Maybe if I did change, there could be a better. But me personally, I am more logic-based. I'm very, 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 very red on the subject. And so I naturally have a lot of sources or information in my head that I can pull real quickly that they say, hey, Nick, genocide. And then I go, okay, well, let's talk about the definition of genocide, what it is, and dolus specialis, which is the special intent. And I explained that to them. I said, okay, now that we've established our terms, you tell me why you believe it's a genocide. Well, they have the intent to kill Palestinians in Gaza. I'm like, okay. And then they'll say something like, this happened last night. Someone's like, look at the destruction in Gaza. I'm like, yeah, a lot of explosives have been used. And they're like, how can it not be a genocide? So what is genocide? And they're like, it's the intent to, kill these people, to put it lightly. And I said, okay, so can you explain to me? And we did the numbers. So Al Jazeera even says that 200,000 tons of explosives have been used in Gaza since October 7, 2023. Before we even get into bullets and ground operation, I explained to them how many bombs that would be. I said, how many people do you think conservatively would be killed by just one of these explosives? And I said, please be conservative here. And they say, let's go with 15 people. And I said, let's go with 5. And we do 5 times, the amount of bombs, and it ends up coming out to about like 2 to 6 million people, depending on the number we used. And I'm like, how can the number be, even according to Hamas, even including all Hamas, PRC, Army of Islam, PIJ, PFLP, DFLP, Mujahideen brigades, all of these terrorist organizations that collaborate with Hamas, the amount of deaths that they have had, all collaborators of Hamas, Noah Argamani and those 3 men, the hostages, when they were rescued, were being held by a doctor and a reporter. One of the hostages that came out recently said he was being held by a first-grade teacher. And I said, those are legitimate targets of war. So I said, how can the number be, even according to Hamas, 68,000? And your number that was extremely conservative, before even coming up with the bullets or ground operations, is the whole population of Gaza. And they go, well, not every bomb is going to be aimed at a civilian. I said, but in a
maybe
genocide,
they're not very good at
be.
it. Maybe they're not very good at it.
Well, that's what I said. And they answer me and they're like, well, Nick, no, you're right. And they go, but maybe not every bomb, they're not trying to kill civilians. I said, but in a genocide, it would be. And I said, not even every, I told you to use a conservative number for a reason, because we're looking at the average here. And finally they go, this was the end of the live pretty much. They go, you know what? I think you're right. He's like, that's actually a really good point. He said a talking point I used against Israel since October 7th actually ends up kind of debunking. Now, he still was saying I have some problems and he's going to come back on my live, he said, and we're going to talk about those problems. But he's like, maybe you're right. Maybe it wasn't a genocide. And so those are the small things I do, because it's very, very, very difficult to argue. Especially, I love using their own talking points back at them. Like, oh, that's a talking point, but actually it actually disproves this. And it's very hard for them to argue against that. And so that's generally what I do to answer your question. It's more logic, but I'm not going to say that emotion doesn't play a role.
So yeah, I mean, we will say with certainty that even logical people, it feels good to have that puzzle piece fit into place. So
I'm autistic, so
yeah. So no, it is a feeling. We are feeling creatures first and foremost. Everything comes after. But some people, right? They use that feeling, with the more intellectual way, other, in a more, emotional way. That's okay. The question, I guess, for us is how do you think we can, because, debunking the idiots and talking to them, that's a lot of fun. We know, we've had quite a few guests who are doing amazing work out there. Rudy Rockman, you probably know him. He's out there.
Yeah, he's a friend. I just had lunch with him some months ago.
Amazing. So he's doing this holy work, and we've had we have this we had a conversation. You said your dad was Samoan, so that's Polynesian culture. We had a woman who's from Maori roots,
Aotearoa, or New Zealand.
In the UK. She's a reverend in the UK, and she's also doing this crazy pro-Israel. This is important, but what we're trying to say is, look, if we can turn even 1% of these efforts toward the Jews themselves, to help them realize that something is off in how we conduct ourselves among ourselves, first and foremost. Because if you like logic, and if you look at all the history, you will see, if you follow the patterns, because you said, oh, I see what happens, anti-Semitism, empire falls apart. You also see that before every big pogrom, Jews are very much at their the most ununited. Always, it's Jewish disunity always precedes the pogrom, the expulsion, the whatever, right? The blood libels. It always comes then. It's not like Jews were exemplary citizens of brotherly love. There's always something.
Well, if Jews are the spirit of humanity, then naturally a split in the spirit, the Jews, is naturally going to lead a split in humanity.
Exactly. So how can we help shine a light on that?
Unite the Jews.
Because my concern, dude, look, I live in Israel, right? Seth is in New Jersey. He's relatively more protected for now until Mamdani takes power, and then good luck to Seth. He's close to the next caliphate. but
sorry, Seth.
In Israel, I saw what happened on October 6th. I saw the State of the Union, or lack thereof.
I was there. That was my first trip to Israel. I left 4 days before October 7th.
So maybe it was your fault. The point is that it was so palpable, that the crazy decision, that almost civil war, and we were spared a civil war by these attacks. As is usually the case. At some point, it gets to a head, and the system has to release the tension and kind of reset everything. A lot of Jews die, but then you can start over. The Jews will never disappear because the system needs them. That's, according to network science, proves that. You need the hubs in order to help the system thrive and grow. But we have to do the work. How long, how many times are we going to be that, you know, the canary in the coal mine. Everybody forgets that the canary dies. That's how you know the coal mine. You know, we don't want to be the canary in the coal mine. We want to be the oxygen, the life in the coal mine. We want to
So
be, right? How can we?
I want to get to, since we're getting a little nitty gritty here.
Yeah.
I'll say something that I don't know if I should as a non-Jew, but I'm gonna say it anyways.
Say it.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
place.
just first off, the challenge of uniting the Jews. Wow, that's quite the challenge. What is it? 2 Jews, 3 opinions. So you see Jews, and the biggest fight I see with the Jews, and like you said, on October 6, 2023, was the, you can say, right versus left, secular versus religious, and that's a tale that's quite old. But one side blames the other, and vice versa. But what if there's splits even on a local level within each side? You have on the, let's say, liberal Jew or leftist Jew or whatever, that split is they are the majority, if not the sole holder of anti-Zionist Jews, right? What I call as a Jews. And then you have, oh, so that makes the religious Jews correct, right? Well, as an outsider, and I'm totally admitting to that, and I could be wrong, other than maybe Chabad and a couple other organizations, what I see from the religious Jews when I turned accidentally into Williamsburg when I was in New York, and all of a sudden I saw this just like wall that changed. I felt like I was in a different world. I see a lot of religious Jews who, are they being a light amongst the nations, or being a light amongst the nation, specifically just the Jews? I see them very, very much reserved, and they want to close themselves off to the world. Now, from a human perspective, do I understand that? Yeah, they're very much targeted because, you know, they're wearing, literally, if you will, Judaism on them. And so people would, like, I'm sure, have a field day targeting them. And it's very disgusting that happens, and it does. Do you stop being a light amongst the nations because you're being targeted?
I think we'll also, something that might make it easier is we don't need to unite every Jew right away. Let's start with just like America, or like any, or the world. Most people are in the category called the masses, and it's also in the Jews as well. Not everybody is a thinker, and most people are following whatever it is, whether it's, with wearing Nike sneakers, or, drinking Dunkin' Donuts, or whatever it is. Most people are in the masses, same thing in the Jews. But to get the ones who, and that, there used to be a problem. Oh, well, everyone's a sheep, but you just need a good shepherd. So if we can just bring the first few circles together and start moving in the right directions. The job of the masses is not to invent the thing and solve the problem. The goal, the role of the masses is to just give the force behind it. So we just need to get that group that can to start to unite.
How do you do that? Right?
Well, that's what we're asking you.
Well,
Nick.
no, but here's the thing. Think about what you just said. You said, let's start with American Jews. Notice how you split it off at American Jews.
Well, no, I didn't say American Jews. I said the Jews that can. I said the Jews that can.
No, I thought you said early on, when, like, just in America, or just in. Well, I'll say it, that a lot of people do, right? They'll split off like American Jews or Israeli Jews and stuff. And the reason I say that is because the diaspora could be, I'm not saying it is, I'll refer to what you guys think, is the diaspora, is that causing Jews to have such a forced different opinion? Because I do see a lot of people say, Israelis will say, American Jews, we love them, they're our brothers and sisters, but they don't get it. And some of the diaspora Jews say, look, Israel is going through their own issues, but they don't understand the issues of the diaspora.
Right.
And so is the diaspora causing a split amongst the Jews that is not allowing them to connect mentally and spiritually? What do you guys think?
I'll tell you, I'll make it actually even more, because you started, even before Seth spoke, you started by saying, well, let's get nitty gritty, right? And, even within you look at one side, one camp, there's also a split there, right? And that's Seth's favorite thing, right? And then you look into that, that side of the camp, and then a split there as well. And you can go down to the individual, because there's a Kabbalistic saying that says man is a small world. So if you understand that on a quantum level, everything happens inside of you, this whole reality, all of it is perceived in you, by you. You're projecting it. It's a projection of all your conflicting desires. And if you can start by, reconciling that inside of you, put one thing at the top as the most important, and that is the pursuing of this quality of love and care for the other above all the differences. How do I contain all these different desires? Because they're in me. I have to love all of that stuff in me, the good, the bad, the this, the that, yeah, right? Just like your body is a representation of that. There's acid and base and tough tissue and soft tissue. It's all living together somehow in this miraculous construct. You need to be that construct. And then all we have to do is just add a few more of those seemingly external people to that construct, and boom, you start to see change. You don't need a lot. You need 10% of every given population to hold on to an opinion for it to take off. So whether it's diaspora versus Israel, it's not even important. Let's get 500,000 Jews here in America. I'm saying here, I'm in Israel, but let's get 500,000 Jews in America to do it. Let's get a few 100,000 Jews to do it here in Israel. Let's get a group to say, you know what? We don't care, left, right, more
Whatever
religious,
my
less
opinions
religious.
are, I want to I'll even hold my opinion and keep my opinion, but more than that, we're going to add to the love between us all.
Exactly. It's not uniformity, unity above the differences. That's the Jewish trick. That is the startup. That's
I
it.
don't see, again, outsider perspective, I don't see the love lost amongst the Jewish people. In fact, better than any community, I think even through disagreements, extreme disagreements, the Jewish people do love each other. So I agree with your statement, but I don't know if that's particularly the problem, or at least not the biggest one. Go ahead.
So Leo, is it then just there's just not enough quantity yet?
No, I'll say it. First of all, it's true that in small groups, which is usually how we see things, you do see that, right? We had the guest last week. She was like, yeah, you go to, Nicaragua and you sit in a cafe and suddenly there's another Israeli or Jewish people like, oh, you also don't need the pig. Oh, great, let's sit together. And, there's like this immediate bond between them that you somehow cannot achieve between other nations. She was Hungarian. She's like, if I meet another Hungarian, they're like, turn the other way. With Jews, somehow they gravitate toward each other, and it's true in the small groups. Once you start to amass them, the friction
that's right.
Quickly comes to the surface. Again, the same friction will happen with any other nation, except with Jews, it's more pronounced because it's a process of evolution. Like as we said earlier, Jews are just an accelerant. We're just an example of how you will be, not you yourself, like everybody else. You will be there eventually. You will get there. So we just have to show how you can do it. How a bunch of egoists can do it. And hold on, just to finish that line of thought. And it's not happening on a mass level. I mean, when you talk to people, without an impending war, that love and care is only skin deep. When there is war, yes, you bet you. But the whole point is to do it without the war. That's the
right. I think you touched on it because I was going to ask you, and we think of throughout history of the Jewish people, which is quite a long history. What has brought the Jewish people together the most, and what has pulled them apart the most? And I don't know if Jews have ever particularly, I mean, even when you read the Torah, I don't know if they've ever particularly been, especially when you start to have more of those masses come together, have been, like this. But what brings Jews together the most, and what splits them apart the most? My answer, unfortunately, it's kind of depressing, is misery has sometimes brought them a lot together, because although Jews, unfortunately, for whatever reason, are really not helped when they're going through persecution, or now obviously on an individual level they are, but I'm talking about like massive. There's something about the Jewish people when they are going through an increased sense of misery. They have to go through it together as a people because nobody really wants to help them. And it's really just like, I don't get it. Like when I was at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, and I saw the what's it called, the Hall of the Righteous Gentiles. Don't get me wrong, it was a very beautiful thing. I think it's awesome, but there shouldn't be a Hall of Righteous Gentiles. And why I say that is because there shouldn't be so little that you can put them on a list and put them in a museum. There should have been so many people helping the Jewish people that it's just kind of like a note in history, like, hey, a lot of Gentiles helped, right? It shouldn't be like, hey, a lot of Gentiles helped. Here's a list that we were able to. It's I don't get it. And
Uh,
so I think through misery, because they're a lot of the times alone, again, individually, like someone like myself, I will always stand with the Jewish people, but I'm an individual. I'm talking about massive here. They have to comfort each other. On October 7th, if something like October 7th happened to anyone else, whether it's on an individual level, like their family was massacred or kidnapped, or we're talking about a country level like October 7th was, the next step is to grasp what happened, grieve, etc. The Jewish people didn't get that. They didn't get that at all. They got about 5 minutes of it before the whole world was like, well, and it's like, what do you mean? And so the Jewish people, who do they have? They have, yes, once in a while they come across this guy Nick Matau's live or another Gentile's live, and it makes them feel good. But
Douglas
overall, who do they have?
Murray,
Right, absolutely. But who do they have really? And that's each other. And so there's something that the Jewish people have that even I myself, as much as I talk about this, cannot particularly, at least fully understand, although I'd probably understand a lot more than most people that aren't Jewish.
so
So yeah, go ahead.
so this is well, first of all, I'm just noticing the time. We have to like wrap, sadly.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, first of all, it's so great to talk to you. You're clear, articulate. You think well, on your feet, but you don't bullshit. I like it. We can talk. There's our entire first season. I'm saying it to you and to all our listeners. It exactly explains those questions and why Jews need that, steady pressure from the system to come together, to realize it, to slowly get to that conclusion by ourselves, because free choice is a big thing, is a big part of the system. Otherwise we're just like animals. So free choice remains. We have to choose it, and there's a process. It's a process, but I think we're at a good point in this process where we are. And more people, again, like I said, are talking about it. People like you are observing from the side and commenting about it. This is perfect for the advancement of humanity. I couldn't have asked for a better time to be alive. I think we're starting to realize it. So maybe we know it's gradually happening. We just need to nudge it, give it a push, and we hope people like you are going to help. We always ask our guests to read a quote from the sources. This one is from Degel Machane Ephraim. If you can read it to us, that would be phenomenal. I think it kind of sums up a lot of what we talked about today. And,
It's Degel Machane Ephraim Va'et Hanan. Is that it?
Good.
MashaAllah. Perfect. It is written, the Creator is one and Israel are one. Hence, they are adhered to the Creator, since it befits the one to cling to the one. And when is this? It is when Israel are bundled and attached together in complete unity. At that time, they are regarded as one, and the Creator is upon them, for He is one. That's great. I like it.
You can save it.
What?
You can save it. I said you can save it.
I will. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Nick, it's been a tremendous pleasure and honor to talk to you.
A unique human being, man. We talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you hear it often, but very, very nice to talk to you and hear how you think, to feel your inner direction and your role in this whole process. And from all of the things that we've read, both of our background comes from mostly the Kabbalistic sources. That's where we get all of our insight. And like Leo said, the first 20 or so episodes, it's like a produced season there where we go through the history of the Jewish people and where we crystallize what happened here. What we arrived upon from all of those sources and all those Kabbalists, like the one you just read from, is that Israel is a quality inside of a person. And we very much feel that quality inside of you. Very, very much.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
you keep referring to yourself as not a Jew. We would refer to you as a Jew.
it. Thank you. I appreciate
We're not
it.
rabbis, but
Yeah, don't
I can't make Aliyah with that statement.
yeah, we can't sign any certificates. But
yeah. Don't let anyone else tell you differently.
Thank you. I appreciate it, you guys.
Nick, can you tell us where people can find you? I mean, we'll put everything in the description, but just since,
Yeah, it's I mean, if you probably type in Nick Matau anywhere, you'll find it. But I think like on TikTok, it's just Nick Matau as if it's one word. And then if you want to watch my lives, I go live every night around 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. And I go into like midnight, and that is Nick Matau live on TikTok. Now, as for Instagram or X, almost the same thing, Nick_Matau. That's it.
Beautiful. So everyone listening, please follow Nick. And if you feel so generous, give us a follow and a like and comment and subscribe. Really, we don't ask for money, but if you got value from this, leave a comment. It helps the algorithm know that we're special. And more people will find out about this talk.
Just comment, I really loved Nick Matau. That's good. Just comment that.
Exactly.
Also YouTube as well. I'm on YouTube. I'll comment down below.
Excellent. Beautiful. And we're staying connected. Of course, I'm extending this invitation to everyone who follows Nick to really, you can post questions, offer to come on the show. We talk to everyone who has a passion for this, who feels the importance of this issue. You are welcome here with us, and we'll stay connected. Nick, thank you so much. We are the Jew Function, and we'll see you all next week, I guess. Take care.
bye.